It's day one in the 2020 Utah Legislative Session. Ceremonial day, kind of getting everything oriented, calibrated, some ceremonial stuff to get started. It's going to be a long 45 days. The pace is quick, and we get a lot done in that 45 days. Kind of overshadowing things is, what's going to happen with the tax reform, and then the referendum that resulted, and the announcement that we will be repealing the bill that was passed in December. But the big question is, so then what? So I'm waiting to hear like you. So anyway, one of the things I really love about this day is we get to hear from our Utah Supreme Court Chief Justice Durant, and he gives the State of the Judiciary address, and that's just always wonderful. He had some great messages today, a really good personal story that emphasized how important every individual is, and that every single person has value and is loved by somebody. And the other thing he talked about was some of the reforms that they are trying to do in the judiciary is to make legal services a little bit more accessible and affordable. One of the steps toward that we've made in the last couple years is to allow a new certification of a provider of legal services that isn't necessarily a lawyer, but they have expertise and qualifications and can be licensed in an area that can give service to people who need it and who traditionally, historically, have not been able to access a lawyer. So I love that direction, and actually I feel that way about a whole lot of things. Government getting out of the way of people's ability to work in a competitive marketplace. They also want to remove some regulations on lawyers and the practice of attorneys to, again, provide some more competition and again some accessibility to the marketplace. And we know when you have that additional competition, it results in lower prices and higher quality. So all about that. The other thing that was important about this to me today is I'm reminded about how special our system is, created in our nation, in our federal government, and then mirrored in this state government, is a separation of powers between a judicial and a legislative and an executive branch. And why that was so important to do. I mean, of course, the judiciary is a place that we can go to have disputing parties settle that dispute, and that's not a shameful place to be. That's part of what the courts were made for. But those three branches of government jealously guarding its authority, and the reason that's so important is because that check and balances, it's in a balance, and one branch keeping a check on the other, that prevents the check is on a government from becoming overbearing, from violating your rights as a citizen, becoming tyrannical is what the founders were concerned about. So having these checks and balances is so important. I'm very, very concerned about seeing the erosion of those checks. We're very out of balance in the federal government. We've done a pretty good job in Utah to maintain that. Even recently, kind of the legislative branch, the legislature, kind of taking on the executive branch with when the executive branch appeared to kind of veer a little bit too much in our lane. We need to jealously guard our right and responsibility and obligation to be the policymakers, be the lawmakers, and don't abdicate that responsibility, that privilege, and that check to the executive branch. Make sure that we form the policy as complete as possible before we hand that over for the executive branch to execute. So wonderful and exceptional way we govern here in the United States and in Utah. So I'm reminded of that when the judiciary comes in. Great blessing and privilege that I have to serve the people of House District 42 in this great process we have up here. I'm going to try my best. Text me, write me, email me, call me. Would love to hear from you in the next 45 days, and I'll try to keep you up to date on what we're doing up here. So happy first day of the legislature.